Hello, everyone. The current vibe is probably an all-time low for the process. I don't know actually. There were the dark time just before the middle, which was pretty bad, pretty rough. But now we've simultaneously, firstly, we've reached a point where we're very low on ideas. We've got we've definitely outpaced the parts of the story that we've thought of, and we are running in a difficult territory. Also, so like when I'm doing let's plays, I'm very, very, very nervous about it. I find it very embarrassing if someone walks in when I'm doing a let's play. I'm even worse with writing. I can't stand people being around when I'm writing. And today, about like every 15 minutes, someone just wandered in. Uh, so I didn't. I did leave writing quite late, and then I kept having to stop and be mad at people. So hopefully the output's decent, but the writing experience wasn't great today. It's been going so well. Everyone's just been leaving me alone naturally, and today was the day that all changed, and someone wanted a conversation every 10 minutes. But we did manage the words. We actually managed 1,840 words. We only have a little over 16,000 words left of the whole thing, so we just got to walk it in. We got like 10 more days of words, and then we're there. So we just gotta get there. And I've got a couple of ideas for where we go next. I don't think I'm gonna finish a whole story during this. Sorry, during this process. I just checked my notes because I did write out like a very very brief outline. We're on step 2 of the outline. There are 4 steps of the outline. The last one is a scene I've thought of, so I guess I could just skip ahead to that, but I hate skipping ahead because I don't know what happened in the middle because I always just make stuff up and change stuff, and like I want to know in April we're gonna get bad. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna say something else then, and I totally forgot. Anyway, this is the end of the kind of exposition-y segment that we were kind of forced to do. We still haven't got like a solid grasp on what we're doing here, so you know, hopefully, I mean, it's gonna need to be changed. Hopefully, it's still all right now. I think there's a few points where I've just kind of written something down to remind me to write it better in the future. Oh, sorry about that. That's something we do when we're having difficulty. I've still enjoyed the actual writing. I just people kept interrupting me when I was doing it, and that was throwing off my groove. Yeah, let's just start the thing. It had been huge beyond Rob's capability to express, taking the form of shapes that didn't exist. It radiated power and cruelty. Once he'd seen it, he remembered how remarkably blatant it had seemed. The titanic, ageless being hiding amongst a room filled with 100 people. How had nobody noticed it earlier? He'd known it could destroy him with little more than a thought, and felt its desire to do so. Now, any time he cleared his mind and closed his eyes, he could feel it looking at him, observing and growing even more venomously angry at his continued existence. His brain had told him he was looking at it, and could see it looming over him in a space outside the one he existed within, but he couldn't perceive any form. There was a lot to try and put into words. Big, he tried. Angry. Wasn't even close to enough. April tried a different angle. When did you see it? I was looking at the pillar, he started. I don't know if I felt it more than saw it. It wasn't making sense. He finished apologetically. It's a little tough to explain. I think I know what you mean. Did it see you? He thought, very, but said yes. April paused to process. That could be handy. She thought a little longer, then sighed. I'm gonna have to bring Zach back in. Rob didn't like the idea much either. Can he tell us about any of this? He's gonna have to try. Zach was sitting on the bottom of the step playing games. He's sitting on the bottom step playing games on his phone. He jumped at the opportunity to be allowed back into the discourse, and jumped again to dodge Piper at the last moment before stepping on her as she continued to lie on the floor. Sorry, Piper, he called. She said nothing. Is she okay? Rob asked April quietly on the way back to the little table. Not really, April explained. I mean, physically she's fine. Piper's a whole situation. Full disclosure, all of us are a little crazy. She chuckled, but it wasn't funny. She probably shouldn't laugh there. She does have, like, half a face torn off. Rob was a long way away from understanding what it meant, but didn't want to pry. He said, okay, warily. I think I've reused a lot of the descriptions for how people said things as well, but we'll see about that. Oh, a thing I want to say. Nah, we'll get to that when we get to that. Hopefully, I'll remember. Anyway, April sat down and looked over at Zach. Rob thinks he saw the thing. Zach's answer did a lot to quell any optimism that had re-emerged in Rob as he'd spoken to April. He mounted his chair backwards and proudly pronounced, "What thing?" "The big one." She held her hands far apart to emphasize bigness. Zach nodded sagely. "One of the ones who's doing the world ending, I think," Rob tried, not sure if he knew enough to contribute. "Oh, Rob's affected?" Zach asked April in a more hushed tone. That shouldn't really be a hushed tone. I liked my, how I said it. We'll change that, that's fine. "What does that mean?" Rob interrupted quickly before April could answer. Zach continued speaking to April. "How much do I..." "That's the one you want to do in a hushed tone." She shrugged. Zach pivoted quickly to face Rob, leaning in close across the tiny table. He had his hair down today, and it covered most of him. "Alright, family. You reckon the thing reached out to you? Give me something we can work with, okay?" Rob leaned past him, shooting a, "Is this guy for real?" look to April. "Yeah, I'm behind too, Zach. Maybe you should explain your working a little here," April told him. Zach sat back and glanced between the two of them as if stunned they'd both lost him. "Okay, what are we not getting here?" "I said I saw something, and you asked me for something you could work with," Rob recapped, quite patronizingly. "I'm missing everything in the middle." Zach started over. "When did you see it?" April answered for Rob. He looked at the pillar. Zach turned to her. "I knew I didn't trust that thing. What was it?" April shrugged widely. Rob answered. "It was some kind of machine? A smart machine? Runs on blood, I think." When Zach turned back to him, he was beaming from ear to ear. "Blood. We can work with that. What did it want?" "I'm pretty sure it wanted to eat me," he replied apologetically. Zach leaned in further. There was a threatening energy about him, like when he was about to do something insane. "Now, when these things connect with people, it seems to work both ways a little, right?" He eagerly awaited an answer. Rob backed up as much as he could and said, "Sorry, you've lost me again." "Come on, my guy!" Zach leaned back in his seat, producing a sharp sound on the concrete floor as the two chair legs that had been up impacted on it. April thought about drowning for a second. "Did you find yourself thinking about anything that seemed unusual after you saw it? Like, thoughts that didn't seem completely, domestic?" I don't know what that meant either. They were both staring hard at Rob, who felt extremely nervous about the whole thing. That was Rob, by the way, should probably mention. Maybe they were both utterly mental, Rob considered. Then something struck him. "Wait, you're saying they can put thoughts into your head?" "Sort of," April told him. "No," Zach corrected her, looking back to Rob. "Continue." He did, cautiously. "I thought about some weird stuff when I looked at it." Zach gave a victorious fist pump. He and April turned to each other and muttered something inaudible back and forth for a moment. Rob waited, growing steadily more annoyed until Zach addressed him again. "How you feeling, by the way? Feeling good, buddy?" "Fine," Rob answered suspiciously, then remembered. "Hang on, you think something could happen?" He looked over to April again, who tactically noticed a particularly interesting piece of wall in her eye corner and looked away. "I didn't say that. Don't worry about it," Zach told him quickly. "What thoughts did you think that seemed particularly abnormal?" "Go back one," Rob asserted. "You're saying nothing's gonna happen." "Don't worry about it. I'm not worrying about it. Can we get back on topic?" He laughed nervously. April jumped back into the conversation with a deeply insincere, "I mean, nobody really knows what's going to happen. This is all, like, pretty new." Zach continued immediately as she petered out. "You'll be fine. I'm sure you'll be fine." "Probably," April added the necessary clause to his statement. concluding with the lighter, I mean, almost certainly. I'm almost completely confident everything's just going to be swell. Rob was visibly struggling with his fight or flight response. Zach cut in again. We're pretty much leading experts in all this right now. You can trust us. Oh, your name's not Obadiah Walrus, Rob finished. Zach and April laughed uproariously, stopping very abruptly after a few seconds. What did you think about that? Seriously, that was Zach. They were both leaning in now, almost butting heads across the middle of the table. Rob found himself outnumbered. He'd seen the machine's construction, hundreds of people in near total darkness forging pieces by hand that should have been nearly impossible in broad daylight with modern tools. He'd seen the rites being performed on them, and the sacrifices offered onto it, heard the screams. He'd seen the clouds of crimson smoke hanging low across Victorian London, blocking out the sun. I saw the machine being made and stuff. There used to be loads of the things. I saw how they fed them. Some of Zach's enthusiasm drained out of him as Rob watched. That's pretty boring stuff, Rob. I need something juicy. April cut in. It's pretty normal when handling an affected object to be shown how it was conceived. Real common one you got. Sorry, Zach offered. Alright. Once again, Rob felt attacked. Even his delusions weren't good enough for his new friends. Jesus. When he'd seen the entirety of the creature past the vessel, the insight he was receiving had taken a turn. It all seemed muddled now, though, like a half-remembered dream. It hates the sun, Rob tried. It's a great and horrible thing. It's how horrific it can't stand the sight of itself. He wanted to kill the sun and bathe the world in darkness. The words came to him as if he was just a vessel for them, the fuzzy vision straightening itself out as he spoke until it was vivid once more. We got blood and darkness, Zach thought out loud. Doesn't really narrow it down. He didn't say darkness, he said it fears the sun, April considered, looking up at Rob as she concluded. Did you know the fire would work on the tiger? Jaguar. Yeah. Likes blood, hates light and fire, April discerned. That's the starting point, Zach considered, the smile starting taking over him again as he started to speak more quickly. More quickly again. Just two again. Anything else? There was so much else. It was all just an inch beyond Rob's reach, like when you forget a word. The rest is kind of foggy. It's weird. What, you just forgot? Zach asked him point blank and viciously. It's kind of hard to describe an alien feeling that's happening inside your brain, Zach, April informed him, like it was something she'd struggled with firsthand. I believe you, Zach sighed deeply, returning to a healthy midpoint of enthusiasm, where he came across neither too crazy or not crazy enough. I wasn't sure how to word this sentence, but should this be no? I think it reads slightly better as or because the next word's not, and I know I'd trip over that every time. Um, but I think nor is more grammatically correct. I'm going to leave it as or, because I'm a rebel and I will do what I want. You know what I mean. Well, thank you very much, Rob. We can probably figure out a thing or two from here. I'm going to have to make some phone calls. He paused. Speaking of which, you should probably take my number, in case you remember anything. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah. He wasn't entirely sure he wanted Zach to have his number. He liked the idea of it being as difficult as possible for Zach to contact him. The fate of the world depends on this, right? Absolutely. Rob got out his phone and the two exchanged details. He marked the man down as Obadiah. What happens now then? He asked, completely uncertain of where he stood with the group, or the situation, or anything. You should probably go home and fix your window, Zach told him. Call us if you think of anything, April added. What, we're just done? He didn't know if it was liberating or otherwise. He kind of didn't want to be left out of the end of the world adventure the team of dangerous lunatics were having, although he was fairly sure he'd just mess it all up. Unless you think of something, April added. Why is there a question mark here? Unless you think of something, April added, slightly surprised at this reaction. Stay in touch, man. I kinda like you. Zack stood up and patted Rob on the head before walking off around Piper and into the back corner to make his phone calls. Rob made his own way up and out, pausing in the doorway to see if anyone would stop him. Oh, Rob. It was April. He turned quickly to see what she had to say. If something does happen, something bad, to you, I'll be in touch, he offered, helpfully. That's where the question mark we found should go. That's where that lives. Do, April finished. Her face was starting to really hurt again. Rob left. You know what? That wasn't so bad. I always say this when I think I've done a bad job. We read through it, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's good. I kind of got a vague idea of where we're going, and I want to kind of get in there. Like the building Rob worked at was made the way it was made to produce as much misery as possible in one area and trap it in. So it could power. I don't know. I guess the machine's like a vessel for the whole thing. Maybe it's just like a beacon for the whole thing to draw it in nearer. A lot of the bad things are just trying to get the attention of this big evil god. I want as part of the story that like the vessels of the big thing, possibly even the big thing itself, they're kind of happy to hang out with like the top 1% of humans. They want they'll hang out with you if you're rich and like powerful, but anyone else they just kind of want to murder. That's an important part of it. I think we're getting into that later. That's on step 3 of my notes. By the way, my notes is like 10 words total. Oh no, 9 words. It's 9 words total. We're currently on identify enemy, which is what we're doing. Yeah, I've got an idea. I think I know where we're going next. And then after that, that's we'll think about that when we get there. This is fine. Oh, I've got 9 minutes before tomorrow, so let's hope we've got let's hope we've got an idea. Probably gonna do some of the words tonight again, even though I think it does affect the quality negatively when I'm writing very early in the morning. But writing through the day, I mean, I just I just want everyone to like get to a safe distance. Like there's a invisible bubble around me that takes up most of the floor I'm on. And if there's people walking around there, I don't want to do it. And like I'm not gonna be in a situation probably where there's no one moving around in that space. So we should definitely start it tonight and just stop if we start getting tired. And just work from there. We get enough chances to write through the day. It's just kind of frustrating. Yeah, that's the plan. That is all for today. These are I think we're getting through these faster. We know what we're just about. We got what's the word? We got a status quo to adhere to now. We know what we're vaguely going to touch on in what order. We got a setup, a layout, but for a production, which would mean it is a nope, don't know, forgotten the word. Schematic. We have schematics to follow. Schematic wasn't the word. If you can think of the word, tell me in the comments, and have an excellent day. This is Bruce signing out. See you, folks.